you are not gonna get rich in Latin America. Today we discuss. Today we are gonna discuss a subject that I see a lot and I've seen this throughout the years on my particular, career path is that many, let's say, Western citizens, especially Americans, uh, they have a, let's say, skewed way of seeing the world and especially finances and how it works on the rest of the world, especially in Latin America. A lot of times I see comments, inquiries, things like that, asking about jobs in Latin America in order to move to, of course, a particular country in Latin America, get a job, and have a great standard of living. That is not gonna happen, and I'm gonna explain why. And also, I see sometimes they are looking, they treat investing offshore, especially in Latin America, like it's some, some crypto scam, like a meme coin, like a meme stock, something like that. And yet again, that is not going to happen. So today we are going to explain why you will not become rich in Latin America if you are not rich before in your home country in the West. Let's start in how are the rich people, the difference between the rich people and the US, let's say Western Europe, and the countries in Latin America. There are exceptions, so please take this with a grain of salt. We are gonna just talk about generalities. Okay, what happens is in the US, in order to become rich in the US, if you follow a particular path, you are going to become rich. I'm seeing dental assistants being rich. I'm seeing carpenters. I've seen guys that didn't even went to college and they have like a 150, 180,000 per year jobs doing spreadsheets or being like a middle manager, something like that. And of course, you have the sexy careers that give you a lot of money, like STEM degrees, IT, uh, doctors, MDs, things like that. Cool on that. And usually there is a path in order to become rich. Just get on a particular career, get on a particular business, trade, whatever might be the case. Now I'm seeing a lot that many people are getting rich being plumbers and construction workers and these particular trades, electricians, truck drivers, things like that. Very cool on that regard. So, and of course, you have been an entrepreneur, having a successful business, being a great investor, things like that. So, there are a lot of ways in order to become rich, become a millionaire in the United States that does not exist on the rest of the world. Like, for instance, I saw this story about a gentleman from the South that he become a millionaire because he made a particular, like a plastic dental pieces just for fun. He sold this particular, you know, dental pieces to Halloween stores, and during Halloween became a success, and he sold millions of units and became a millionaire. That is not going to happen on the rest of the world. Now let's go with other countries on the West, Germany, places like that. Well, it's less likely to become rich in one of those places. However, you need less money in order to have a great standard of living. Places like Germany, like France, places like that. On those countries, you're not gonna become rich easily, but you're gonna have a great standard of living if you follow a particular career path. IT, engineering, of course, being a doctor, but in Europe doesn't pay as much. So depending on, of course, on the country on the West, it's not going to be as easy, but there is a career path, and of course you have the synergy that if you live on such countries, high developed countries, there are going to be opportunities that not as much as the US and a handful of other countries, but still you can make quite some, create wealth, build wealth. Not It's not the same compared to the US and a handful of other countries, let's say Singapore, Switzerland, places like that. So basically, you have established career path or business path in order to become wealthy, become prosperous, become successful. Now, in Latin America, doesn't work like that. Most of the people, not all, but most, 99% of very wealthy people, either they are all money, so generational wealth, they own, farmland or strategic assets and, very old money that pass generation by generation. And right now, the people enjoying reaping the benefits are, the younger generation, the ones that are on their early 20s, late 30s, early 40s, people like that. So they are not, self-made entrepreneurs, people like that. That's something that is very rare to see in Latin America compared to the United States, that a significant percentage of the millionaires are self-made millionaires because, they go through a particular process, a particular career path, a particular business path, compound efforts, compound wealth, 401k, IRA, build equity on real estate properties, things like that. Now, I'm not saying Latin America it cannot happen, but it's way less likely to happen. So you have to be on a particular path and have a lot of luck in order to create the right synergy, in order to find the right job, the right business, because the opportunities, finding opportunities, the chances are slim to none, regardless of how hard you work or how smart you are or how accomplished you are personally. Getting those opportunities is gonna be next to impossible. It can be done, but it's way, way, way less likely. First, because in Latin America, the incentives are most of the people, million is either old money or corrupt money. People close to the politicians, usually also old money are close to the politicians, but that's for another day. Or people who are successful dealers, if you catch my drift, things like that. So it's something that you don't control in Latin America. Now let's talk about the job market in Latin America compared to the West. In the West, let's start with the United States. You have a bunch of jobs that pay six figures, being middle management or STEM degrees and things like that. Like 10-20% of the jobs in Latin America, and I'm sorry, in the US, there are six-figure jobs. I don't have exactly the number, but it's around 15 to 20%, something like that. I saw a number of 14%. Let's say 14%, just for the sake of the conversation. That's one out of every six jobs. One pays 100,000. In Europe, it's less like that. Then a good salary is like 40,000 euros, something like that. But let's say 10-20% of the jobs, even in Western Europe, are going to give you a great standard of living. Not, wealth, Scrooge McDuck wealth, but it's going to cover the bills and also give you great standard of living. Of course, in Europe, you have this particular welfare state, healthcare, things like that are being taken care of. But well, okay, that's a different kind of discussion. In Latin America, I would say around 90% of the jobs are horrible jobs. Don't even cover the basic cost of living. And let's say around 5% of the jobs are actually good jobs that are going to give you a surplus on your cost of living, plus in order to build wealth and do something like that. But most of the jobs are terrible jobs. And if you go to college, regardless of how hard you work, STEM degrees and things like that, still most of the jobs, they're going to be like 1,000 STEM degree graduates, and it's going to be like 50 opportunities for those 1,000 people. So like 5% of them, 10% of them are going to get, a good job, a good income with that particular degree. Of course, depends also on the degree. The more useful the degree, the better your chances. Still, the chances are not great. Now, what many people do in Latin America that study, get STEM degrees, things like that, they try their luck, for instance, in the United States. But we explained this many times here on the channel that the US, the legal procedures in order to migrate to the US are very xenophobic. So it's next to impossible. The United States usually attracts even the most desperate people, the people who go throughout the southern border. And, right now Trump is hunting down like animals those guys. Anyways, we're not going to get into that today. Or the very rich people that get EB5 visas. Usually, they are the ones that actually destroy the value on the countries in Latin America. The old money, the corrupt money, that kind of people that get an EB5 visa, and they have a nice living in South Beach, in South Florida, places like that. Anyway, well, what happens is that some of them, let's say high middle class people in Latin America, they save a lot and they send one of the kids to college in the US. They have to pay triple on their on the student fees, and they have to pay cash. They don't have student loans, and those are the cases where that people can actually create wealth and value because they have the right IQ, the right degree, the right STEM degree, and they do synergy in the US and cost a premium because they have to pay 3 or 4 times the fees, the college fees, the tuition fees of local American, and without student credits and things like that. Okay. And also a handful of them also make the right synergy in a country, let's say like Colombia or Mexico, something like that, and they do very well on their home country. And like I said, the people that don't do that particular path in the US, since the process in order to migrate legally for the middle class in Latin America is draconian. There is not a legal path in order to do so. They also choose going to a, let's say, more developed country in Latin America, let's say like Argentina, Chile, a place like that. But most of them also they chose to go to Europe, where the legal migration system, if you're watching this from Europe, it's not like the European migration system is that great, but it's way better compared to the United States, the legal migration system. Anyway, so they go places like Germany, like France, like the UK. No, the UK has a terrible migration system. Germany, France, let's say Austria, Spain, but Spain is not as developed, so the Spaniard economy doesn't give you as much of high value in order to create wealth. It's a place more of a to spend your wealth rather than create wealth. Anyways, or some country now Dubai, there are a handful of cases. I know a couple of people, but anyways, so you get the point. You most likely won't get rich in Latin America, and the last cases are the self-employed, let's say doctors and dentists and lawyers and accountants that are self-employed, and depending on how good, how bad they are, or how good or how bad is the economy on their countries, they make a decent living. For instance, doctors, when they become specialists, make a decent money. The lawyers, the top 10% of lawyers, do relatively well, so they don't have to go to another country. And same thing with accountants, and of course, a couple of niches, particular niches that I don't recall right now, that also give you some good, great rate of return. Now let's go with the job inquiry sometimes that I see from people from abroad, especially from the United States, that they're looking for a job because they want to move, let's say, like Chile. And I remember because I saw it one time in Chile or Colombia. how much a particular professional earns in Chile, how much they pay for a particular job. So the first thing I'm gonna say is that if you come from abroad, you are not gonna be a job hunter, an American job hunter, and you're gonna find a job that's gonna pay a Western standard of living within Latin America. Because usually the standard of living of an average, let's say, above average Latino, costs like half compared to the average American or an average Western citizen. So if you are not doing something important in the United States or another Western country, and you're looking to move abroad, find a job, being a job hunter, first, also there's a legal process that is not as, it's way easier compared to the US, but it's not as easy as you might think in Latin America because, these things get some time. Anyways, so you're not gonna find a job. If your plan coming to Latin America is finding a job here that is gonna pay for your cost of living, I'm sorry, that is not gonna happen. Now I see other cases of different Westerns, especially from the US, yet again. But I've seen this from Germans a lot, and they are, we have a saying in my country: you are pissing outside of the pot. And I see a lot from Germans, so let's focus on Germans this time. And they think that they are going to become rich in Latin America. I don't know why. And actually they have very ridiculous expectations, like buying properties, like mansions or luxury penthouses for just a couple of $1,000, or buying like a whole farm, something like that. And yeah, I laugh a lot, but it's actually I laugh in order to not to cry because it's sad. Well, anyways, that is not gonna happen. If you're watching this, the US, Germany, whatever Western country are you watching this right now, this is not gonna happen. So if you don't become rich in your home country, in any OECD nation, very developed OECD nation, you're not going to become rich in Latin America. So that daydream that you are going to be on a beach in Mexico or on a nice, farmland or of the coffee farmland in Colombia or something like that, and you're going to have a great life, something like that, that's a pipe dream that is not going to happen unless that you're already rich. In that case, yes, with just a little bit of coaching, yeah, that is going to happen. But sadly, you have, to pay for the party first. Now, let's talk about realistic options in order to make money in Latin America. Most of the time, and of course, there are going to be exceptions, but most of the time, people who are already rich, are already financially successful on their home countries, also tend to make money in Latin America. But it's not like, it's not going to be like winning the lottery or something like that. Usually, people, depending on their particular investment expertise, could be real estate, could be farmland, could be equities, could be a small retail business, something like that. They buy it because like you have the habit of making money or doing business. You are a serial entrepreneur, and you move to Colombia or Brazil or Argentina or Panama, whatever may be the case, and you just start, like a branch of your particular business or expertise, or you take a shot on something that you're already good, like real estate. So what will end up happening is that you're going to invest a capital that the first time you're going to lose some money or maybe just break even. Let's say you bought a real estate property that is not the best, it's not the worst. Maybe you can cash flow with Airbnb a couple times, just break even. And then you get your thing going on, and you become better, and then you acquire a couple of nice properties regarding the ROI. So they're gonna cash flow very well, and also great potential of of a capital gain in the near future. Or you buy like a vineyard or a coffee farmland, something like that, gives you a dividend, and also you own the property, and it's something's fun. You love wine, you love beer, you love you love coffee, you love, you love cattle, something like that. And you're going to get a return like 10, 20% per year with a capital that you have, sitting on the bank. And it doesn't hurt you. I mean, you don't need that liquidity, at least not at a particular moment, or just buy a couple of cash flowing real estate properties, knowing what you're doing, and you make something out of it. But it's not like you are gonna reach Latin America broke with not an insignificant, let's say, net worth or financial stability, and you're gonna make it in Latin America. There are a couple of cases. I read a couple of cases, but it's very, very, very unlikely. So the lesson of today is that if you're thinking of making money in Latin America, start on your home country. Thank you for watching Continental Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. And if you want to work with us, continentalinsider.com. Thanks again, and have a nice day.